This is Sam Long.
I'm John Nugent.
And I am Ron Peters.
Welcome to the After Class Podcast.
Because the best conversations happen
After class.
Thanks for joining us in another episode of the After Class Podcast. We're glad to have you along. This is our happy Independence weekend.
Yes. Happy Independence Day.
We broke free from the tyranny of the British Empire.
Our closest allies now.
Those of you who are British, sorry. I guess.
Well, it's funny because my wife did a short-term mission trip to Wales many, many years ago. And it happened to be over the 4th of July. And while she was there, their host family actually did this 4th of July thing for them. And I just thought it was so magnanimous on their part to give them a 4th of July celebration the day we basically flipped them the bird and said, we don't want to be a part of you anymore. So yeah, I was impressed by that.
Yeah, it's something. Oh, what's that? There's a funny meme going around having to do with 4th of July. I don't celebrate 4th of July. Oh, because they don't have a Reese's treat. It's not an official holiday.
Oh.
You got the trees for Christmas, the eggs for Easter. What is there for 4th of July? Nothing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's not an official holiday until Reese's generates a specialty.
A flag would be pretty easy to come up with.
You would think.
I would think.
Yeah.
That might make me a little more excited for the holiday.
Right.
I agree with that.
Excited
Yeah.
about the holiday. In fact, I really don't love. The only thing I like is the grilling out. I don't love the explosions because my dog just freaks out.
Yeah.
I don't, whatever. It's hot as blazes usually. Like I don't understand. Yeah. But
it'll be cool this 4th of July.
Will it? I was going to say, it's looking a little bit warm to me.
Because we're going to be in the pool.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, the temperature seems to be
near the
up.
pool. You'll be catching splashes.
Sure. I doubt I'll get in.
Yeah.
Sure.
But for me, the 4th of July is getting ready to head up to the UP. We're going to spend about 10 days up there, up in the Keweenaw, as far north as you can get into Michigan without falling into Lake Superior. So we're looking forward to that. That's our usual summer getaway. It's a little bit earlier this year, but we're heading out a couple days after that. So those are our big plans.
It's pretty rustic, right?
Really rustic. I try to go as dark as possible up there, get off grid. And the people around me won't let me do it. They got to have their internet and their DVDs. And I'm like, let's go rustic. I seem to be the lone voice in that.
I love you say they're DVDs as though that's
I know, right? Well, we've got
cutting
internet
edge technology.
Yeah, exactly. It's still 20th century
so we got
technology.
our VHS tapes.
That's like 3 technologies ago.
It is, yeah.
It's up there.
But still, I could just sit there without, internet and whatever you use to watch your movies. And like I said, I'm the lone voice, and nobody wants to follow that path.
I'm thankful. This is a whole other topic. I'm thankful that DVDs caught on instead of laser discs. Laser discs were huge.
Oh,
you know
right.
How much space that would take up if we.
Yeah, I remember my dad would rent a laser disc player right when it came out.
Really?
And they were like a big 33 RPM record. Big. And we just thought it was really cool. Yeah. But I agree with you. They would have taken up way too much room.
Yeah, I only saw one player and one movie ever on Laserdisc. I was staying at a guy's house for my weekend ministry when I was in college, and he picked one up and did the thing. Like, oh, cool, Laserdisc. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's someone who jumped on the bandwagon too soon.
A little too soon.
Yeah, you got
to pay off.
Let everything shake out before you get on that.
Yeah. Every time I upgrade to a new technology, I have to update the collections that I need to have in my collection. So all the Star Wars movies, all the Batman movies, all the Matrix movies, I have to pick all them up in the next rendition. So it's rough.
And that's how they keep the money coming in. Change everything every 20 years and make sure everybody has to rebuy it. 15 years probably actually closer to the mark.
Yeah.
But anyway, happy Independence Day.
Yeah.
All wish to say.
Yeah, Beth and I are hosting a party on 4th, and you and Carrie are going to be there, correct?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll be there.
Usually
with bells on.
Usually we do it on July 3rd,
right?
Because Delta Township has fireworks, within about a mile walk of my house, and we hang out by the pool, eat some food for a while, and then at the right time we make the pilgrimage to the park and watch it from beneath. It's a group of lots of people go home because it's a little too close for them, but that's canceled for this year, and so
stupid Delta Township.
My neighbor Bryce. He manages the Zap Zone, and he's got connections in the entertainment industry. And so he has a buddy who owns a 4th of July fireworks business, I should say. And so he got a ton of stuff that's going to be shot from next door. And before I knew he had a ton of stuff, I had resolved I was going to buy some stuff this year. So there's some 4th of July upfront stuff in the fireworks department. And so I had these 2 coupons that came in the mail, and I'm a sucker. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save money. I'm going to buy these.
I'm going to save money by buying.
I'm going to buy these 2 things.
Yeah.
And then Beth told me at dinner yesterday, she's like, the coupons expire today. And that day I had a youth group pool party followed by an elders meeting. I'm like, there's no way I can go. And she's like, I think they close at 12. So we looked it up. Yeah, they close at 12. So at 11:30 last night, I was driving to the other side of Lansing, and there was like 100 people in the fireworks store last night.
Oh, wow.
I was so surprised how packed it was. There must have been 20 staff people working. Like, they knew all the last-minute people, and they had that coupon going.
Everybody's got the coupon, yep.
So we compared to my neighbors, we have just like a tiny fraction, but he showed me a picture of his 4th of July stash, and it's impressive. It would line up against that back wall in a stack about this high. So
how high for the viewers or the listeners?
I would say about 4 feet, 4 feet high.
4 feet. Wow.
And then how wide is this room? I don't know.
10.
8 feet, 8 to 10. So anyway, he's got a big stash, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Does he have any of those black snakes? Those were my favorites. The little black pellets you light and they turn into a snake. I know they're silly, but I always like those for some reason. Probably not those.
Made for the little kitties, and
yeah.
The pack. One of the packs I bought have just a little bit of everything, and so hopefully there should be some stuff for the kids to do.
Whippersnappers,
and then some for the brave souls who don't mind losing a digit.
Exactly.
You can always tell those people.
Yeah.
You guys missing digits. It's like, oh, you're a fireworks guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're continuing our series on humor in the Bible.
Like dark humor, like losing a digit, for example.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect
Dark.
example.
You too.
Yep.
And we're paying homage a little bit to Greg Stoffer in this episode. When I did some crowdsourcing for topics in the Bible about humor, he just sent me Judges chapter 6. And I'm like, could you be more specific? Because there's kind of a lot going on there. And he wrote back, well, and this is the Gideon chapter. Like, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. I'm like, all right, I gotta slow read through this story and find the humorous bits. And I found myself like the whole story is humorous from chapter 6 through chapter 9. And so we're just going to spend probably the lion's share of this episode going through the Gideon story. So it's going to be as much about the Bible and humor as it is. Like, if you don't know the Gideon story well in the book of Judges, you're going to learn it today.
Yeah.
So we may or may not get out of the book of Judges today because there's some funny things going on in the Samson story and with Gideon's heir, his son.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to, like I said, we may or may not get out of Judges. So
Cool.
you want to kick us off, Sam?
Sure, I get the first section. I think is the most humorous. So there we go.
Bring it on.
May I read it and then we'll talk about it. So it's in chapter 6 of Judges. I'll be reading verses 11 through 16. Now the angel of Yahweh came and sat under the oak at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, as his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. The angel of Yahweh appeared to him and said to him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty warrior. Gideon answered him, but sir, if Yahweh is with us, then why has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonderful deeds that our ancestors recounted to us, saying, Did not Yahweh bring us up out of Egypt? But now Yahweh has cast us off and given us into the hand of Midian. Then Yahweh turned to him and said, Go in this might of yours and deliver Israel from the hand of Midian. I hereby commission you. He responded, But sir, how can I deliver Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. And Yahweh said to him, But I will be with you, and you shall strike down the Midianites, every one of them. So, I know we're smiling, laughing. People are like, yeah, that's just the story. But there are little things in there that you might miss if you're not a careful reader. And the first one is the angel comes to him, and he's beating out wheat in a wine press. Do you beat out wheat in a wine press?
No,
No.
it's usually on a hill.
What do you do in a wine press? Right? You stomp grapes in a wine press.
Yeah.
So why is he beating out wheat in a wine press? Well, the answer is because it's kind of lower to the ground, and the Midianites have been raiding and stealing all their food.
Yep.
And so he's taking the wheat, which normally, as you said, would be like on a flat area, kind of exposed for people to see, allow the wind to blow the chaff away.
Yeah.
He's doing it in a wine press so that they don't see and don't steal from him.
Exactly.
Someone might call that cowardly. Others might say
Like-
that's wise.
He's hiding.
Yeah, you might say he's hiding.
You could say he's being prudent, but no matter what, he's hiding.
Yes.
Without a
so,
doubt.
which is fine. So he's hiding. to keep his food from being taken by the Midianites. At which point, the angel shows up and says, Yahweh be with you, O mighty warrior. And it's
Classic.
thick, yes. I would say that very sarcastically. Because obviously, if he were a mighty warrior, he'd do it for everyone to see, and then come take it from me, right?
Yeah, like Samson, like bold, in your face, doing brave things. Gideon is clearly hiding, and he gets addressed ironically as this mighty warrior.
Well, and I could see. Oh, I'm sorry.
And not just once, but twice.
Yes.
Like when he addresses him again, it's like in terms of his strength and his valor.
Go in this might of yours, oh mighty warrior. Like,
And I could see Gideon. He's like threshing out the wheat, and this angel comes along, and I can see just Gideon looking around. Like, you're talking to me? Is there somebody else in the room here? You're talking to me? Yeah, it's so ironic, so dripping with. I want to say dripping with sarcasm, but I don't think the angel's being sarcastic, but it seems sarcastic to us.
Yeah, and he goes on to, and of course he speaks in and said, "Oh, I'm the runt of the litter, right?
Yeah.
I'm the smallest in my family. We're the weakest clan. It's Manasseh of all people. Like, we're nobody, right?" and of course he's self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever you want to call it, where he does that sort of thing. But the angel over and over is like, "It'll be fine." It's classic God, right? Where God takes the one who's not qualified and not gonna. I was like,
not confident, not bold,
we'll
arguably not courageous.
Yes,
and names him something different.
Yeah,
yeah. And you would think, well, maybe that's kind of a sincere thing, like God is speaking power into him.
Sure.
But the story just continues with jokes.
Yes,
which means you probably should read it as somewhat ironic and humorous, and the author clearly thought that he was being funny. Yeah.
Next section.
So we're picking up verse 17. Says, then he said to him, if now I found favor with, this is Gideon speaking here. If now I found favor with you, then show me a sign that it is you who speak with me. Do not depart from here until I come to you and bring out my present and set it before you. And he said, I will stay until you return, the angel. So Gideon went into his house and prepared a kid. That's a baby goat, by the way.
To be clear, that's not a humor, black humor.
Not dark humor at all. Baby goat. And unleavened cakes from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and the broth he put in a pot. And he brought them to him under the oak and presented them. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened cakes and put them on this rock and pour out the broth. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord reached out the tip of his staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes. And fire sprang up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes. And the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Then Gideon perceived that it was the angel of the Lord. And Gideon said, help me, Lord God,
Lord.
For I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord and called it the Lord is Peace. To this day it stands at Ophrah, which belongs to the Abiezrites. Did I say that right? Abiezrites?
Sure.
Close enough, right? Yeah. I know, right? I'm lucky to get anything
This
right.
one is, I think, funny at the beginning and funny at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, an angel of the Lord appears to you and, like, self-identifies, and you're like, can you just wait here for a second? I got to go get some food. Like, just tell him the Lord, just kind of wait here for a second. Let me bring an offering.
Yeah.
To me, I find that humorous. Like, the angel of the Lord is like, at that point, you're like, what do you want me to do? Like,
Right.
you're
Right, to
here.
speak, yeah.
I'm here.
Here I am, send me.
You're in control. Set
Right.
the agenda. And the fact that he kind of just says, can you just wait a second? I was, I can get some food. I can make an offering.
I'm feeling snacky. How about you, Angel?
A little
A
peckish.
little something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I guess you could tie it into the idea of, showing hospitality.
Sure.
Like when Yahweh and his angels show up to Abraham, the first thing he's like, I'm going to make you a meal. And he just like lays out this lavish spread. So I guess you could see it as tying into the commitment to hospitality. But I don't deny there's still something kind of hilarious about that.
It also reveals a lack of understanding of who he's talking to because they don't need food.
Right, right.
Like he's making it not as an offering, but as like you said, as actual food.
Right.
And what happens next shows that like this is not what we need, because the angel goes on to say, "Oh yeah, go ahead and lay it out," and then he just blows it up.
It's like exactly.
He torches it.
Like, I mean, thanks, but
Yeah. And that is a great moment because it is. I like the way you said it, Sam. You just, it just catches fire and is gone. It's like, I put all this work in that food and now it's gone. What just happened here?
Yeah, he's going to be going hungry for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. And the scene just unpacks the way, it goes on and in a rather ordinary way. But then, like, he shows that he really is an angel. And it's like, oh, shoot. Like, all of a sudden now he, like, springs into reverence mode. I shouldn't be here. I'm going to die. So after asking for a sign, which is kind of a bold move to do to begin with, but he is given a sign, I think, graciously. And I think this anticipates future requests and adds more texture to them. But this, like, sudden burst of awe, reverence, respect, I'm going to die, is funny because, like, when it was a possibility earlier, you kind of, like, put him on hold. So you could imagine an angel had been sent by the Lord just sitting there looking at his watch, and who knows how long that took.
Right.
Right.
Probably
you got to bake
a little
bread.
while, yeah.
Right. It's preparing a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could just see him. He's like tapping his foot. He's looking at his sundial watch and going, I got other things to do. Can we get a move on this? Oh, Gideon.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get too far in there, but like preparing a kid, the baby goat, I assume you got to slaughter it.
Right.
Then you got to skin it.
Yep.
Then you got to roast it. Like there's a lot going on with that.
That is a process.
Yes.
Yeah. This is an all-day thing, and the guy is just sitting there tapping his foot.
The patience of God.
God, are you sure this is the right? I can see the angel looking up and going, "Are you sure this is the right guy? You're the boss. I'm not questioning the boss, but
Yeah, what was going on in Gideon's mind during this time, and then what was going on in the angel's mind?
Right.
Yeah, so funny story. I'd like to see this one like portrayed on the big scene, and like with creative license, like
that would be funny.
like the Saul movie,
Yes.
Saul and David. All right, well, moving on.
Moving on.
Verses 25 to 27. That night, the Lord said to him, "Your father's." No, did I skip? Thank you. Take your father's bull, the second bull, 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal that belongs to your father, and cut down the sacred pole that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on the top of the stronghold here, in proper order. Then take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering with the wood of the sacred pole that you cut down. So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had told him, but because he was too afraid of his family and the townspeople to do it by day, he did it by night.
Ah, you mighty warrior, you mighty man of God. I'll do it at night so somebody can see it.
Yeah, and it's his dad's. Like, it's his dad's sacred worship shrine, and he's being called to take it down. And, earlier he was the mighty man, right, who was afraid of the Midianites. Arguably, they had oppressed the people and are subduing the land. But now here he is, that mighty guy, the brave warrior who's afraid of his own dad and
Right.
by night, and his own town, really, because apparently his family, they're sponsoring this shrine, but the wider citizenry enjoys it. So there's some irony in him. Again, this mighty man, yet again hiding, this time from his own little town and his own immediate family. So more irony of his character.
I had a thought now. Oh, sorry. It reminds me of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Cameron takes the car, the Ferrari. Like it's his dad's favorite thing in the world, and he finally ends up taking it anyway.
Taking it for a drive.
And doing everything he can to try to get it back so no one notices.
Make sure nobody breathes on it or anything. Yeah.
That's a pretty common trope in movies. Mom or dad's like favorite vehicle gets taken, and almost every time it's going to get trashed.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget what happens in Ferris Bueller. Do they pull it off? Do they get it back?
Well, they get it back to the garage.
I'm spoiler for a movie that's from the 80s.
Right, exactly.
They get it back, and he said, well, if we put it reverse, it'll wind back the odometer.
His dad knows the odometer
but
reading
it didn't. And so it was jacked up so it can spin reverse and the wheels can spin freely. And Cameron gets ticked and he starts kicking the bumper out of anger about this whole situation. And eventually the jack gives and it goes flying off.
out the back end of the garage.
And then it gets destroyed.
Yep.
As well as the garage.
Down in the gulch.
Yeah.
So much worse than he possibly could have imagined.
Yeah. Okay, but the story's not over. Verse 28. When the townspeople rose early in the morning, the altar of Baal was broken down, and the sacred pole beside it was cut down, and the second bull was offered on the altar that had been built. So they said to one another, "Who has done this?" After searching and inquiring, they were told, "Gideon, son of Joash, did it." So apparently he's not as secretive as he thought.
Right.
Well, they got those cameras out there to keep an eye on.
They'd take 10 people with them.
Somebody talk.
Loose lips.
Yeah, who
Big
talked?
mistake.
Then the townspeople said to Joash, "Bring out your son so that he may die, for he has pulled down the altar of Baal and cut down the sacred pole beside it." But Joash said to all who were arrayed against him, "Will you contend for Baal, or will you defend his cause? Whoever contends for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because his altar has been pulled down." Therefore on that day Gideon was called Jerubbaal, that is to say, let Baal contend against him, because he pulled down his altar. So what's funny to me, right off the bat, is the dad, whose altar it was for Baal, is now like, no, how dare you go against Yahweh? I mean, he doesn't say that.
Right,
But like,
yeah.
like, no, like if Baal's a real man, let him stand up and for himself. Like, wait a minute, this is why do you have this altar and shrine to begin with?
Yeah.
Right.
And now he's not defending it. He's acting like he's taking the high moral ground when it's his thing that was
Right.
destroyed.
Yeah, no, the shift there is so sudden, because you're right. This is not something that's cheap. He's made an investment here. It's probably elevated his status in his community, and all of a sudden he's just turned him like, let Baal stand up for himself. We'll find out what kind of god he is, And so his turn there is really surprising.
And, like one of the best dads in the Bible. Like he backed his son. Like,
Yeah.
people
Good
are
point,
ready
yeah.
to kill his son. And he's like, wait a second. You're going to fight for Baal? Like, if this is a mighty God, then, and this is a kind of a continued critique of idols.
Yeah,
This
for real.
time coming from, and this is going to come back later in the story
Yep.
in an ironic way. And this is part of why we're telling it here. There is kind of the humor of how he backs his son and asks Baal to fight for himself, right? But this is kind of foreshadowing a later incident at the end of Gideon's life where idolatry stuff ends up coming from him. Right. So, yep. Fun story, good dad, and some humor in attacking Baal and asking him to fight for himself. So much so that Gideon gets the name.
Yeah,
Right,
the name's
yeah.
kind of interesting. On the one hand, having Baal in your name's not good if you're a Yahweh follower.
Right.
At the same time, it's like, I mean, it's intentionally like, well, let Baal contend against him, right? And so it's the people who name him that. I mean, he didn't ask for that name, so that the people who name him that are definitely pro Baal, and they're naming him this thing that they're hoping, like, is a dig at him. But from then on, well, spoiler again, he wins, and so then every time they call him Jerubbaal, like, oh, you mean the Baal that lost?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it ends up going to be like a name of triumph for the time they think it's a dig at him.
Well, yeah, and as an old man still wearing that name, I'm like, I'm still alive. Where is this other god? Seems like he's not standing up for himself.
But he does some weird stuff. For a guy who's basically named anti-idol,
Yeah.
some odd things come out of his legacy at the end.
Yeah, without a doubt. Continuing on, beginning in verse 33 here. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east came together, and crossing the Jordan, they encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord took possession of Gideon, and he sounded the trumpet, and the Abizrites were called out to follow him. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, and they too were called to follow him. He also sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, Naphtali, and they went up to meet him. Then Gideon said to God, in order to see whether you will deliver Israel by my hand, as you have said, I am going to lay a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece alone and it is dry on the ground, then I shall know that you will deliver Israel by my hand, as you have said. It was so. When he rose the next morning and squeezed the fleece, he wrung out enough dew from the fleece to fill a bowl of water. Then Gideon said to God, don't let your anger burn against me. Let me speak one more time. Let me, please, make a trial with you with the fleece just once more. Let it be dry only on the fleece and all the ground on all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night. It was dry on the fleece only, and on the ground there was dew. So just want to make sure, God, despite everything we've said and despite everything that's happened, can I just be sure you're going to be with us? And not once but twice, and reversing it the second time. And so the Gideon, the mighty warrior, I just got to be sure. I just want to make sure, because he knows he's not going to win. I did not have the ability to. And there is something it's kind of cool. He's like, I got to know you're on my side, because otherwise we're going to get slaughtered. So wanting to know God is on your side, it's all right, but it just doesn't come across as this tactic of a mighty warrior.
I mean, he starts out this, the mighty guy, and he needs a sign from the Lord, and he gets a sign from the Lord, and he gets a victory. Like, he does something brave, risky, and put himself in danger with the town, and by God's providence, probably like he prevails and is vindicated, and now God wants to actually do with him the big task to which he's been called. And it's just like, yeah, can I have a sign?
Yeah.
And the phrase that was interesting to me is, I want to find the exact verse. You will do as you said, right? Like, he tells God, like, just to make sure you're a man of your word, I'm going to do that. And it was so, as the Lord said. And then it's like, oh, can I have another sign?
Right.
Like, the one wasn't enough. And
Thank
then
you,
we
sir.
need the
May I
other
have
one.
another?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he's asking for a miracle. It's not just like a sign, like, maybe if I whatever silly sign we might think of, is like, it's an actual miracle needs to happen for him to believe in God and believe that God is going to be faithful. And he again shows himself to be not quite the greatest victor, the greatest like sort of follower of God that he's often made out to be.
Well, and you already read that. It's like, I know you said you're going to do it, but will you? Like, there's a distrust.
Yeah.
Like, this is the God who brought your ancestors up out of Egypt, parted the Red Sea, and helped you win at Jericho and all this. He has done these amazing things, and now you're questioning whether he'll follow through. The lack of confidence, the lack of commitment to God, the lack of understanding of God's character is on display in Gideon's life.
And I feel like the next scene, God is disciplining him a little bit.
Yes, I agree.
Because of his lack of faith. Like, he senses this guy doesn't really trust me. Like, he acknowledges it is me. He believes there's a sign. He even shows great fear for me. And I ask him to do something, and he says he trusts my word, but he clearly doesn't. So now we have, I guess Gideon is most famous for this fleece passage we just read, but if there's the second the most famous, it's, I think, this next passage in chapter 7, his defeat of the Midianites. So beginning in verse 1. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the troops who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. And the camp of Midian was north of them, below the hill of Moreh, in the valley. The Lord said to Gideon, the troops with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand. Never has that been said before.
Right.
Israel would only take the credit away from me, saying, my own hand has delivered me. Now, therefore, proclaim this in the hearing of the troops. Whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home. Thus Gideon sifted them out. 22,000 returned, and 10,000 remained. So we're down to a third. Then the Lord said to Gideon, the troops are still too many. Take them down to the water, and I will sift them out for you there. When I say, this one shall go with you, he shall go with you. And when I say, this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So he brought the troops down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, all those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps, I like the translation, like a dog, you shall put one on to one side. And all those who kneel down to drink, with dignity, putting their hands to their mouths, you shall put to the other side. The number of those who lapped was 300, but all the rest of the troops knelt down to drink water. So out of, 10,000? There's 300 who lap like dogs. Then the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 who lapped, I will deliver you and give the Midianites into your hand. Let all the others go to their homes.
Too many men. But I like that, because I like what God says. He's like, yeah, too big of an army. You're just going to take credit for it, which they're probably not even going to win. When like in the ancient world, like one of the most important aspects of winning a battle is actually courage. Like in the first few minutes of battle, so many people would just run away. It's like, because it's just chaos and everybody's just swinging swords and there's not like strong battlefield tactics going on here. It's just you're swinging your sword at anybody who comes near you because you don't want to die. And so people are looking at that going, I want no part of this. I'll get out of here. And so for all these guys to say, yeah, I'm too scared, I'm going home, yeah, it's probably legitimate. It's like, I understand the humor is God saying your army is too big, but I don't think that they could have won even with that many men.
Yeah, and my favorite part is that God just playing with him, right? He's just completely messing with him.
Yep.
Like, you've doubted me multiple times now. Let's see what you do, how you react when I say, oh, and by the way, it's going to be only 300 of you who are going to take this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really talk about Gideon's response, I mean, kind of in the next section, but he doesn't say, time out, God. This is a bad idea. I'm no military genius, as you know, but I do know more is better.
Yeah.
And so it's just, like, the humorous part is like God's, again, just messing with them.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, let's just cut down your numbers by, let's see, 32,000 to 300. I don't know what the percentage is. It's high. And
Right. I was trying to think of, is that like 1 out of 100 stays, or is that less?
math is not my specialty.
Like
anymore.
on the fly, I could do this on paper, but I don't have a pen near me.
Yeah. So either way, it's just, I think it's intentionally humorous. It's like he's kind of making a joke of this whole thing to show, like, yeah, I'm more powerful than anything, even your doubts.
And the way you're going to win is with the dogs. The guys who get down and lap like dogs.
Yeah,
the 300 are the ones who were lapping like dogs.
No, they're the ones who kneel down. And
No,
the dogs. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
the doggies.
Oh, yeah. That was,
because
the
I
doggies.
I have a memory, and maybe my brain is
I
playing,
have a memory.
my brain is playing tricks on me, because I in Sunday school it seemed like they told us, no, it's the guys who like scoop the water up and drink it. Like those are the ones who got to go, and the guys who lap like dogs got sent away because they're dogs. And I remember I was reading this recently, going, wait a minute, it's the dogs who make up the army, and the other guys, the ones who are actually the more sort of noble, and they're the ones who get sent home. And I think that's part of the mockery. It's like, yep, you're going to win, and you're going to win with a bunch of dogs.
DAWGs.
There you go, right.
Yeah, the first culling of, like, if you're scared, I mean, that's consistent with Torah, right? I mean,
Yes, Deuteronomy talks about that.
yeah, so that makes sense that you would, send those people home so you have a fighting group.
Yeah.
But yeah, to whittle them down on the people who show the least proper upbringing, and it's awkward to just go down on your face.
Super awkward.
I can't imagine like sticking your face in the water and drinking.
Like, who would do that? It is an odd group of people who would do that, and they are in the minority for sure.
So this is a whole other question. So there are people who, when they want to get a drink from the sink, stick their whole head in, as opposed to cup it in their hand. These people exist in the world. You know that, right?
I guess I've not seen somebody do
I've
that.
seen
but
somebody do it.
Okay, I take your word for that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that, like, that's the comparison, is someone who sticks their full head into the sink to get, like, when they're brushing their teeth and they're done, they stick their head in to get water out instead of putting it in their hand and cupping it.
That seems kind of lazy. I wonder if that's part of it. Like the people who stick their face down there, like they're just too lazy to.
I honestly have a memory of doing this at some point.
Sticking your face in the sink? Yeah. I can
Okay,
imagine.
but I mean, as a little kid, I get it. But if you've got adults who are doing that, it's like,
You
grow up.
You could be roasting some of our listeners right now.
I apologize if I am.
No, you don't.
But I'm saying, grow up.
But these are the ones God chose.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They were the ones like children. They anticipate the kingdom.
Amen.
Oh, look at that. Nice connection you made
It's
there.
awful.
But I'm not sure that's what's going on here.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
I think
but
it's funny that he wants this ragtag group of people.
Well, and I think you're right. It is ragtag group is exactly what it is.
Yeah. It's a funny story.
Yeah. Well, there's more. It never ends, it seems like. All right. Verse 9, picking it up. That same night, Yahweh said to him, "Get up, attack the camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you fear to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah, and you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hand shall be strengthened to attack the camp." Then he went down with his servant Purah. Apparently he was scared.
He was scared. Surprise!
Sorry. To the outpost of the armed men who were in the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the people of the east lay along the valley as thick as locusts, and their camels were without number, countless as the sand on the seashore. When Gideon arrived, there was a man telling a dream to his comrade. He said, "I had a dream, and in it a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and came to the tent and struck it so that it fell. It turned upside down, and the tent collapsed." And his comrade answered, This is no other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, a man of Israel. Into his hand God has given Midian and all the army. So, like I said, first of all, God says, I'm going to do it. It's time to attack. But if you're scared, you can go listen for another sign. And he's like, okay, we'll go. I'll go listen again.
This is number 4 for those keeping track.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he goes, and the sign he hears is hilarious. Like, this rolling bucket of bread, and he's like, oh, that's obviously Gideon.
And this tent just kind of ups
Yeah.
and totally reverses and then falls upside down and falls apart. It's
Like-
it's a humorous image.
Yes, it's got to be Gideon, obviously, because what else could it be?
Right.
And he like these are the Midianites just saying like, yeah, we're all gonna die by the hand of God tomorrow. Like,
And the
Where's the
irony is
confidence?
there's 300 people up the hill.
yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Great story. You're looking at something, Ron? Or
No.
You're trying to get ready?
Well, yeah, my Bible app is not cooperating with me, and so
Yeah.
I'm
What's
gonna
with working from a phone? This is 2 episodes in a row.
So I took a lot of my books, including my Bible, home with me, and so
we
they're
have
not
extras.
I've got like a whole shelf.
We
of
know.
books.
I'm standing right next to her. sitting
Yeah,
right next to
like I got a shelf of books up there, but I've been using my phone. It's been fine till right this moment. Logos is like, no, we don't want you looking at these next set of verses, and it literally won't open up to them.
Really? You want to
So
borrow my
I'm
text?
gonna have to borrow it because otherwise I'm not gonna be able
Next
to do the
episode, I'm
reading.
bringing a Bible in.
Well, I'm just gonna have to remember to bring mine in, so it's not that big of a deal. Again, got a whole bunch of them on my shelf up there, so it's not like I don't have access to them. All right, last passage, chapter 8, beginning of verse 22.
Little context: they won.
Yeah.
God did as He said.
Just in case you didn't know. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you and your son and your grandson also, for you have delivered us out of the hand of Midian." Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." Then Gideon said to them, "Let me make a request of you. Each of you give me an earring he has taken from the spoil." Parenthetical note, for the enemy had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. "We will willingly give them," they answered. So they spread out a garment, and each threw into it an earring he had taken as spoil. The weight of the golden earrings that he had requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, apart from the crescents and pendants and purple garments that worn by the kings of Midian, and the collars that were on the necks of their camels. Gideon made an ephod out of it and put it in his town, in Ophrah, and all the Israelites prostituted themselves to it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his family. So Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they lifted up their heads no more. So the land had rest 40 years in the days of Gideon. So you get a victory, and it ends on a really sour note.
It's classic Israel. I mean, this is intentionally, you're supposed to think back to the golden calf incident where, I mean, God has just come down and said, hey, I'm making a covenant with you. It's going to be great. I'm going to talk with Moses for a while. Everything's moving forward. And Moses is gone for too long, and they're like, this isn't working. We got to do something else. Yeah. And it's the same thing. This isn't working. We got to do something else. Gideon, can you be our king? No. Well, I got a better idea. Let's make this idolatrous thing.
Right.
Because that'll be better for
So
us.
weird.
Yeah. It is a bizarre move for him, but he was never perfect. So why do we expect much
far
different?
from it.
I mean, I think for me, it follows along his character. He constantly needs something, physical signs to believe. And let's make this thing, and maybe then I can, we'll constantly be reminded and see God in front of us. And I mean, I have no doubt it was to Yahweh.
Right, yeah.
But that doesn't mean they used it properly or
Yeah, explain what an ephod is, how it normally functions.
It's like a vest. Let's call it a vest.
Yeah.
That you could put on. The priest would have one, and in the ephod was symbolic. Had different things on it. He also kept the Urim and Thummim in it, so that he could interact with God and the high priest, that is, in certain ways. And so, him making one, you assume he's got to put it on somebody,
Right.
maybe himself.
And he's from the tribe of
Manasseh,
not Levi.
Oh yeah,
Right,
not
yeah.
Levi. Yeah. So is he creating his own priesthood, which we'll see happens later in the book as well? Either way, it seems like it's always an attempt. Idolatry and all these things is always an attempt to control God, to manipulate God. And so here he's maybe trying to continue what he did before. He tried to manipulate God, said, show me a sign, right? That's kind of a manipulation tactic. God's like, okay, whatever. But he's continuing on this same thing, and it's just like all Israel, when it says they prostitute themselves to it, we can only assume that they're trying to use it to control God for their own selfish ends. Yeah. And God doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, and he's the guy who's called anti-idol, right?
Right.
Because he tore down a thing that was a worship stumbling block. And at the end, you had this great moment of him. They're saying, You won, Gideon. Let's make you king. It's like, did you just miss the point of the whole we went from 30,000 to 300? That the battle is the Lord's. Like, the reason why he trims them down from God's perspective is because they will think that they are great and they are mighty. And I want them to know that it's all me. And what do? They give all glory to Gideon for leading them to victory with so few people. And they miss the point that it was all God. And in the attempt to make him king is a rejection of God and his kingship over them. And so the irony is, like, Gideon has this clarity of insight and says, no, the Lord God is your king. But hey, let's collect all your gold. Let's collect all the spoils. And there's this kind of theme of collecting spoils, which from the enemy that, at least in Joshua, was not a good thing. Right? But God conceded and let him take some stuff, just not the idol stuff. But anyway, and then to form an image that then he allows them to bow before. And the weirdest thing is, and like Israel had peace for 40 years.
Yeah.
But they missed the point of God was the deliverer, and they constructed a new idol to replace the Baal and Asherah that they had torn down, that he had torn down.
Well, and like Sam was saying, I suspect it's Yahweh directed, but it's still a violation of the very guidelines he's laid down for what proper worship looks like. And so it's a victory that's marred by still this really devastating lack of understanding of how we're supposed to go about our business. It's like, we've got guidelines. We know how it's supposed to look. And like, the ephod, I always think of it's almost like the collar that, was really popular among ministers a long time ago. And some guys still wear it. It's just a symbol of, I'm a religious figure. I have a special place. You got that. You got Levites. Why do you got to start this competing, attempt to worship Yahweh? In a way, it almost seems like anticipating the northern tribes, after the break in Israel, as they create alternative sites of worship. It almost seems to be anticipating something along that lines.
Yeah, this book is part of what's called the Deuteronomistic history. Joshua, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, right? It's this coherent storyline of the history of Israel. And in important ways, it looks back upon Deuteronomy and the law material. That's why it's called a Deuteronomistic history. And you can see how they're departing and not learning the lessons, right, of how God laid this forth in Torah. And it anticipates what's coming in 1 Samuel as Israel transitions toward kingship like the nations. And this is clearly an anticipation of the kingship. Like, this is their first calling for a king, and he gives the right answer, but then he blurs the line between the priestly responsibility. Like, he was right on the kingship and wrong on priestly matters.
Right.
And that becomes a stumbling block. And then when, David takes on a king, and they're told, when Israel asks for a king, and we're going to get to that, there's this, you can have a king, but he can't be like the nations, and he has to, stay within his boundaries and stuff like that. And they're supposed to allow the priest to do the priest's job. And one of David's bad moments when the ark is being brought into Jerusalem, and even his good moment, like he's wearing an ephod. Like, what are you doing, David?
Yeah.
And both him and Saul cross a line when it comes to the division of responsibility between kings and priests, and that's anticipated in this account. But a lot going on in the narrative,
yes,
but also kind of funny in the way it's told.
Yeah, but I think what you said about it being like, you have this highest of high where Gideon gets it. Mm-hmm. Yahweh is king.
Yep.
Period. So let's go ahead and manipulate him with an evil. It goes from so great at the top to the bottom just so quickly. And what I love about the narrative, and this often happens, is it doesn't come outright and say he's an idiot, but you as the reader know he's an idiot because he's done these things that he shouldn't do. And so that's, I think, part of the subtlety that we see in the Bible very often.
Yeah. I think we should wrap up this episode with the next one, because it really wraps up the Gideon story.
I think it's you, isn't it?
Is it me?
Yeah, because we just got done joking about my app not working. So.
Right, yes. Okay, so this is chapter 9, verses 1 through 15. Now, Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, and so Abimelech means...
my father's king.
Yeah. Either my father is king or father of the kingship.
Yeah,
you can go either way, and so very telling name.
Yeah.
So he went to Shechem to his mother's kinsfolk and said to them and to the whole clan of his mother's family, "Say in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh." So his mother's kinfolk spoke all these words on his behalf in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He is our brother." They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the temple of Baal Berit, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows who followed him. He went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the son of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, survived, for he hid himself. Interesting hiding theme. Then all the lords of Shechem and all Beth Millo came together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar at Shechem. When it was told to Jotham, the survivor, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim and cried aloud and said to them, "Listen to me, you lords of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. The trees once went out to anoint a king over themselves. So they said to the olive tree, 'Reign over us.' The olive tree answered them, 'Shall I stop producing my rich oil by which gods and mortals are honored and go to sway over trees?' Then the tree said to the fig tree, 'You come and reign over us.' But the fig tree answered them, 'Shall I stop producing my sweetness and my delicious fruit and go to sway over the trees?' Then the trees said to the vine, 'You come and reign over us.' But the vine said to them, 'Shall I stop producing my wine that cheers gods and mortals and go to sway over the trees?' So all the trees said to the bramble, 'You come and reign over us.' And the bramble said to the trees, 'If in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.'"
Oh, I love that the he's clearly, like, you go to all these really great trees and they refuse. And the bramble, like the worthless, it's just such an insult to him. You're a bramble. You're not worth anything. But because nobody good was willing to whirl over us, yeah, we'll give the job to you.
Yeah, what do you picture when you hear the word bramble?
I think of the rolling weeds of
The tumbleweeds,
tumbleweeds. That's
of
what I
like a
think.
ghost town,
Or just like really just
in a
like
western.
Yeah, stuff that just like kills. I don't know, just grossness. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
grow
mean,
up; it just grows in a thicket.
Yeah, it's viney. It doesn't produce any useful fruit. It's not good for anything, It's not beautiful. It just kills everything where it takes over. And that's what it does. It's an invasive kind of a plant that it goes in where it doesn't belong and it kills everything else. And so there's just nothing good about brambles.
Yeah, you want to gather it and burn it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And this is the one who says, "I'll do it."
Yeah.
After all the dignified trees, and so this is such a mockery of kingship. I mean, the
It really
guy's
is,
name is either "My father is king," which is ironic because they offered his father kingship and he refused.
Right.
So that's an ironic name that he would name his son, or maybe he already had the son by then. But the fact that his son is named "My father is king," and he makes a run at the kingship and then becomes really the father of the kingship.
Yeah.
Like, this is Israel's first king. The Lord's not involved at all in it. And so we often think about Saul, as Israel's first king. But this is really anticipating that narrative. And some people look at the kingship narrative in 1 Samuel, where God chooses Saul and says, "See, God was involved. It was his will." The Judges period teaches us that Israel just couldn't make it without a king, and so it became kind of necessary, and it's only ended up being bad because it went bad. But that account is prefaced by this account, which foreshadows it. And this is the Deuteronomistic historian's perspective of the king role. It is a downgrade from the normal functions that Israelites might be carrying out on behalf of the Lord and on behalf of fellow Israelites. And anyone with any kind of self-respect for their God-given function in the world would reject such an offer.
Yeah, and I mean, all that theology aside, it's just funny that the baby's like mocking him and calling him Bramble, like, you're nothing, man. Of course,
Yeah.
he's doing it from a mountain far away. But I mean that's just part of it. Is like you get, and he's not just mocking Abimelech; he's mocking the people. Like this is also who you've chosen.
Right.
Like
they agreed to this stupid idea.
Yes. And so like you're gonna get what you're gonna get, but to not like gloss over it, he says, if you're not anointing me in good faith, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon, which seems to be him calling down a curse on them.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he's saying. Like, this is what's going to happen to you. Like this, if you keep going in this direction. And, they say, but if you had in good faith, then so be it. And so he ran away and he hid out from his brother for a long time. But either way, it's just the use of a kind of like a, what kind of genre would you call this? A parable?
It's a parable,
of sorts?
for sure.
Yeah. Of just like laying it out there and for making it obvious for the people instead of just saying you picked an idiot.
Yeah, and it kind of foreshadows the way kings are. Like the bramble says, I'll rule over you, but you better really like defer to me or else I'm going to toast you. Right? Like it's like, when God anticipates, if you anoint a ruler over you, he's going to oppress you. Yep. And in Torah, it's like, if you're going to set a ruler over you, he can't elevate himself above the other people.
Yeah, exactly.
And so here is the very first king who is basically the very people who want to anoint him. Are you sure? Because I'll smite you.
Yeah.
Like, so the king is not kind to the very people that offer him the kingship in anticipation of what kingship like nations is like.
Yeah.
And arguably kingship in general.
In Israel, who's supposed to be taught by God and show the world a better way, is just looking like everybody else. Instead of being part of the solution, you're being part of the problem. And I understand they've got to learn and grow through this process. But I think God is saying, this is exactly what I'm trying to fix, and you're embracing it.
And just as a way of framing the kingship, the Deuteronomistic history starts with this, this mockery of the kingship, and it ends with the downfall of the kingship. And that frames everything in between. And this is what it looks like when they tried it, and it failed miserably. And so it is ironic that people go to the kingship passages in Samuel and use it to justify the goodness of kingship. It just didn't work out because they didn't do it right. Mm-hmm. But no, this account is very critical right out of the gate.
Nobody does it right.
A lot more could be said. Like he gets killed by a woman, basically, who drops a big stone on his head. Anyway, but
it doesn't go well for Israel's first king.
Correct. All right. Well, we did only get through Gideon basically and his son, so I was surprised. But hopefully you found it humorous and informative.
Without a doubt.
So we'll keep going with our humor series the next time. But until then, thanks for listening to this episode of the After Class Podcast. After Class because
the best conversations happen
after class.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the After Class Podcast. ACP is hosted by Sam Long, John Nugent, and Ron Peters. Social media pictures and descriptions are provided by Darren Harris. Audio mixing and editing is done by Drew Nyquist. If you've enjoyed this episode of ACP, you might also enjoy GLCC's Master of Arts in Practical Theology degree. In this 36-hour program, you will receive first-rate biblical and theological instruction from John, Ron, Sam, and several of their colleagues at Great Lakes Christian College. To learn more about this program, visit glcc.edu. Get practical and go deep at GLCC.